Okay, so picture this. A retail genius. This is the guy who created the whole concept of the Apple Store. That sleek, minimalist vibe. And before that, he was the one who helped make Target, well, cool. Now, what if I told you that the very same guy took over a huge, beloved American company and basically ran it into the ground in just 18 months? It sounds crazy, right? Well, that is the wild, paradoxical story of Ron Johnson.
On his very first day as the new CEO of JCPenney, he dropped this line. Talk about a mission statement. He wasn't there to just, make a few small tweaks. He was signaling a complete and total revolution. And that one quote? It tells you everything you need to know about his bold, all-or-nothing approach, an approach that was both his greatest strength and, as we'll see, his greatest weakness.
And just look at this. It's night and day. On one side, you have his masterpiece at Apple, creating one of the most profitable retail ventures in history. The numbers are just staggering. Then, on the other side, you have JCPenney, ousted in less than 2 years after sales plummeted and the company lost billions. The contrast is just wow. And that's really the core of what we're digging into. So it just begs the question, right? How could the same person be behind such wildly different outcomes? Was his success at Apple just a fluke? Was he a one-trick pony who got lucky? Or, and this is the interesting part, does his story teach us something crucial about that razor-thin line between a bold vision and a really, really dangerous blind spot?
To figure out where it all went wrong, we first have to go back and understand how it all went so incredibly right. And for Ron Johnson, everything, and I mean everything, came down to his powerful, unwavering belief in his own intuition. He said it himself. His ideas just came to him. It wasn't about spreadsheets or poring over data. This guy wasn't running focus groups. He had spent decades just soaking up the world of retail, building this powerful gut feeling for what customers wanted, sometimes even before they knew they wanted it. And that instinct, that became his superpower.
And the first place he really unleashed that superpower was at Target.
Yeah, Target.
Back in the 90s, he was a huge part of transforming it from just another discount store into something much, much cooler. Target. He was a pioneer of this idea called prestige, a mashup of the words mass and prestige. And at the time, it was a pretty revolutionary concept. He basically asked, why can't everyday people have beautifully designed products? He made a big bet that good design wasn't just for the wealthy, and his intuition was absolutely spot on.
I mean, just look at the difference. On one side, a totally generic, cluttered store aisle, and on the other, this iconic tea kettle. By teaming up with a famous designer like Michael Graves, Johnson turned a simple kitchen appliance into a piece of art that you could buy for $35. Suddenly, Target wasn't just selling stuff, it was selling style.
And here's the really crucial point. Johnson wasn't just trying to sell more tea kettles. His goal was way bigger. He was aiming for what he called mind share. He wanted to change how you felt about the Target brand. He wanted to own a piece of your brain, so you'd automatically associate Target with good design and quality. It was a brilliant move, and it paid off big time.
Now that success at Target, it didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it caught the attention of another legendary visionary, Steve Jobs. When Jobs decided that Apple needed to get into physical retail, a pretty crazy idea at the time, he knew exactly who to call. He called the one guy who had proven he could completely revolutionize a store's entire identity. And together, they didn't just bend the rules of retail, they threw the whole rulebook out the window. First, location. They put these minimalist temples of technology in the most expensive, high-end urban areas, not some boring suburban strip mall. Then the experience. They invented the Genius Bar, which was a totally radical idea. Free, friendly, human tech support. And finally, maybe the biggest change, they got rid of sales commissions. That meant employees were there to actually help you, not just pressure you into a sale.
But here's something that's really important to remember, and it's going to be key later on. This success was not instant. For the first few years, the Apple stores were losing a ton of money. Critics were calling it a hugely expensive mistake. But Johnson and Jobs had conviction. They stuck with it. By 2004, it finally turned a profit. And after that, it just exploded.
And the ultimate symbol of that success is this, the glass cube on Fifth Avenue. It wasn't just a store anymore. It was an architectural landmark, a tourist destination. It was the physical embodiment of the Apple brand. Elegant, innovative, and a massive, massive success. So, after conquering the retail world with Apple, what's your next move? Well, for Ron Johnson, it was taking on his biggest challenge yet,
trying to save a 100-year-old American department store that was slowly fading away. And the challenge at JCPenney could not have been more different from Apple. This was a century-old institution. Its core customer wasn't a tech-savvy creative. It was a budget-conscious mom who lived for a good bargain. The entire business was basically addicted to a never-ending cycle of sales and coupons just to get people in the door.
Get a load of this number: 590. That's how many separate sales promotions JCPenney ran in a single year. Johnson saw this and called it insanity. He believed it was just training customers to never pay full price, and it was completely eroding the brand's value. He was hired to fix that. So what did he do? He took the exact same playbook that had worked so brilliantly at Target and Apple, and he applied it directly to JCPenney. He went for a total transformation all at once.
And he moved incredibly fast. He changed the logo, he completely eliminated all sales and coupons, replacing them with a fair and square everyday low price. He redesigned the cluttered stores to be collections of stylish little boutiques like this Levi's denim bar. In short, he tried to make JCPenney look and feel a whole lot like an Apple store.
The result was an immediate, catastrophic collapse. The core customers, the ones who loved their coupons, they just stopped showing up. The decline wasn't gradual. It was an absolute cliff dive, with sales falling more and more each quarter.
And as you can imagine, this sales freefall had a devastating effect on the company's stock. You can see it right here. There was this huge spike of optimism when he was hired, but as soon as his plan actually hit the stores, the stock just plummeted. Wall Street's confidence completely evaporated, almost overnight.
So that brings us back to the huge billion-dollar question. Why? Why did the same intuitive genius who built the Apple Store fail so spectacularly at JCPenney? What was his blind spot?
It really boils down to this, doesn't it? Was the playbook itself wrong, or was it a brilliant strategy that he just tried to use on a completely different playing field?
While the analysis points to a few critical mistakes. First, he totally misunderstood his customer. The JCPenney shopper didn't want a curated, stylish experience. She wanted the thrill of the hunt for a bargain. Second, he confused building something new with fixing something old. Apple was a blank slate. JCPenney had a loyal base that he completely abandoned. Third, his greatest strength, his intuition, became his fatal flaw. He was so confident he didn't test a single one of these radical changes. And finally, maybe the biggest lesson of all, context is everything. What works for a luxury tech brand is absolute poison for a century-old department store.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Ron Johnson's career shows that the very same instinct that can lead to world-changing genius can, in a different context, become a fatal flaw. His story is just this powerful reminder that even for the most brilliant visionaries, listening is just as important as leading.